Okay, so we've introduced ourselves to the greatest common factor, the GCF, and here are some unique situations where, believe it or not, there is a GCF. Now remember, what I want to do here, the ultimate goal is to factor, right? I want to break these things up into a product. So be careful, because what a lot of students do with this is they actually simplify it, right? They'll distribute here, they'll distribute here. As a matter of fact, let me go ahead and do that. Let me put it in red. All right, so if you do the distribution, you would get 3x squared plus 6x plus 5x plus 10. And then you combine like terms. So students that are so comfortable with distribution, that's what they want to do with that. However, remember, what I'm asking you to do is to factor the polynomial. And this isn't a factorization, right? A factorization is when I have something times something is equal to what I've got. So as crazy as that looks, I got to figure out what can I multiply to something to create that expression. So that's not the route we want to take, even though mathematically it's correct, right? It's just following our simplification rules that we've learned back in chapter 4. It's not correct in chapter 5 because our right answers are factorization, they're products. So our charge then is we're looking for a GCF. And look real closely, you'll notice that everything, right, hinges around that plus sign. Right? From that plus sign, what I have are these factors over here on this side of the plus sign, and I have these factors over here on the other side of the plus sign. And if you'll notice, they have a common factor, right? The common factor is the expression x plus 2. Now, of course, what do we do with the GCF once we found it? We factor it out. We pull it out. And when I pull that out, what gets left behind, well, right here is the 3x, and then back here what's left is the plus 5. And so notice I have done what I set out to do, right? I now have a product. This binomial times this binomial, right? These two things multiplied together create the situation that I have above. And if you think about it, this is very consistent with what we found, I think it was in section 4.5, when we were multiplying polynomials, right? The idea was to distribute this guy to 3x and then distribute this guy to the 5, and that was our first round of distribution when we were multiplying polynomials together. And so that's probably why you guys kind of want to do this, because you're so used to doing that. But remember, what we're doing in chapter 5 is we're factoring. So find that GCF and pull it out. So now that you're aware of that nuance, take a look at number 2, right? So where's the GCF? Because if I can find it, I just factor it out. Okay, do you guys see it? Alrighty, and so again, in this case, we're separated by a minus sign. If you take a look at these factors and take a look at those factors, the factor that's common, the thing that's been distributed, is 3x minus 2. So what do we do with the GCF? Well, we factor it out and then take track of what gets left behind. So if I factor it away from here, what's left is 2x. And if I do it on the back end here, what I get is minus 7. There's your product. All right? Factoring by a GCF. It's just, rather than being a nice simple term, it's an entire binomial or polynomial. So we've got to be careful. Number 3. All right? You guys see the GCF? All right, so what's the common factor amongst both of them? Well, for this one, again, there's my plus sign. There's a factor, and there's a factor. And what's common is the 2x minus 5. So as we've seen, what happens when we see that GCF, we pull it out, we undistribute it, we unfactor it out. And so what's left behind is 4x plus 3. There's your product. All right, last but not least, right, there's my minus sign. Can you guys see what's the common factor in each piece? Because if you do, we're going to factor it out, right? And so what's common? X plus 3. What gets left behind? X minus 2. And there's your product. This pretty much sets the stage for 5.3. All right, we're kind of in a transition zone. Right now we're factoring by finding the greatest common factor. It is the easiest technique that we've got. You should always start there. All right, and we'll cover that base once we get there. All right, so I'll see you guys in just a moment in the next video.